The other thing that I like to bring up is the idea of toxicity and exposure. Okay, so we have a term called lethal dose, where 50% of the subjects that are exposed to whatever toxin we're applying die. Okay, so that's the LD50. And the LD50 is a one-time punch in the face. That's what it is. And so we figure out what the dose is that kills 50% of the, let's say, bees that are exposed to neonicotinoids, and we call that its toxicity level. However, toxicologists will tell you that that's one way of looking at it. But there's another way of looking at it. Because things that hang around add up over time. So their way of doing it is they say, well, the toxic effect of a substance equals the dose, so how much you give the creature, and how long it's exposed, raised to an exponent. Now, you guys remember from high school about exponents? So if I raise this to 0, that means it's 1. So it's just exposed once, then toxic effect just equals dose. But if it's exposed twice, then toxic effect equals the dose times 2 times the time squared. You understand what's happening is that the more it's exposed, the greater the toxic effect. Am I clear? Okay. We have no idea what the effect of long-term exposure is on native bees. We have no idea. Zero idea. We have zero data on this matter. Okay, well, that's you can see I get. When I talk about this, I remember just why I'm here to talk to you.
Time you mean time years or months?
Well, it's how long you're exposed. Okay, so with a product that persists and hangs around, if a bee keeps going back, let's talk about squash bees. Okay, they go and they feed on squash pollen. So they go and they keep going back to the squash and having more squash and having more pollen and more pollen and more nectar and more nectar. Every time they go back, they're being exposed once more, right? But the stuff they were exposed to before, like the day before, is still there. And so you end up with this added.
Now, if I were to use that equation for time, what do I put for what time period? I want to just have calculations.
Yeah. Well, I would say that it's probably number of exposures. That's what I would say. Yeah. So if you're exposed over 5 days, then the number would be 5. And I don't have the unit there because what I'm trying to show you is the concept. And if you're interested in the actual equation, I will find it for you and send it to you. Okay? The concept is that the toxicity of something is not just how it kills you upon one dose. It's how it kills you over exposure on the long time. It's like being exposed to lead. Okay, when you're exposed to lead, you have some lead, a kid eats some lead paint, they don't die. But over time, it has very serious negative effects upon them. It's the same sort of story. Does that satisfy you as an answer? Okay, so these neonicotinoids are persistent. They, clothianidin and imidacloprid, which are the most common ones, the ones used most commonly, have a half-life of 1,000 days. Now, half-life means that it is the half-life is the time it takes for half of it to be gone. Okay, so let's say it has a half-life of 1,000 days. That means that in 1,000 days after you applied it, half of it will be gone, will be degraded. But it doesn't mean that in 2,000 days, the rest of it will be gone, because it's a graph that goes like this, so it slowly tapers off. So 1,000 days is about 3 years. So you apply clothianidin today, it's hanging around for 3 years. If you apply some more next year, then you're actually upping the dose again because there's some from last year left, and you're applying more. Get what I'm trying to say here? Okay. So if you had a rotation of corn and soybean, like I told you, you're going to have environmental loading. If you have, this is a really great rotation. This is the farm that I do a lot of my research on. They grow pumpkin, and then they rotate the sweet corn, and then they rotate the green beans, and then they rotate the strawberries. It's a really great rotation. It's long and it's varied. Guess what? They apply clothianidin in several forms to every one of these crops. And they have no idea. Well, I'm going to give you some ideas. Let's let me get. I'm just trying to show you the seriousness of the problem. Okay, it's not all a bad news story. I think there's a really simple way out actually. The other thing about neonicotinoids is they're highly water soluble. What that means is that when they come in contact with water, they dissolve into the water really easily. So neonicotinoids are used a lot in irrigation on golf courses. That's how you end up with these greens that look so perfect, right? Because there's no insects chewing on the stuff. And guess what? All that water that ends up on the green goes into the soil and it ends up in water tables. There is lots of research showing that neonicotinoids are ending up in our water table and in our surface water. As a matter of fact, I have a daughter who's just graduated from university. She did a project on a situation in Long Island. Long Island has been using neonicotinoids by the ton because they have a big agricultural area in Long Island, and they have a very sandy soil, and it's an island, and so they only have one aquifer. Their aquifer is shared. It's very, very susceptible because surrounded by salt water. Their aquifers are completely tainted with neonicotinoids. Because the neonicotinoids have gone off the crop and into the aquifer. Okay, it's a serious problem on Long Island. It's much worse on sandy soils than on clay soils, but it's a concern. We should be concerned for all soils. So there are two instances where you have neonicotinoids applied in water, in irrigation on farms and in irrigation on golf courses. Studies in England have shown that aquatic ecosystems are definitely hurt by neonicotinoids that end up in water. Okay? There's a growing body of data that supports the idea that butterflies, birds, and amphibians are also being affected. And I've just chosen birds here that are well known. And butterflies that are well known, but I'm not saying that monarchs are dying because of neonicotinoids, and I'm not saying that bubbling is dying because of neonicotinoids. I just wanted to choose birds that we would associate, that we would recognize. However, in the scientific community, there's starting to be a conversation about whether or not it actually is a problem of neonicotinoids in all of these creatures. The next piece of bad news is this, that a lot of neonicotinoids are not applied singly. So you might have one neonicotinoid applied with another neonicotinoid applied with a fungicide. So they're stacked, and then they're all applied at the same time. And we have no idea what the interaction among those chemicals is and what its effect as an interactive group is on creatures in general. There is some data that shows in honeybees that exposure to neonicotinoids is an immunosuppressant and increases the likelihood that bees are going to get nosema disease. So how do bees come in contact with neonicotinoids? How do they find neonicotinoids? Well, the first way is through nectar and pollen. So this is a bumblebee, and it's foraging on a wild plant that might be beside a treated field. It will very likely come in contact with neonicotinoids there, okay, through the adult food. Larvae come in contact with neonicotinoids by eating tainted pollen. They can come in contact with neonicotinoids by flying through dust after planting neonicotinoids, because in planters, have you guys been following this stuff about corn and planting and dust. Anybody, do I need to talk about that? Yes? That's okay, just a lot over that one. Okay. There was a lot of controversy last year and the year before that because honeybees were dying in large numbers. And I'm sure that native bees were dying too, but nobody was watching. Right? So honeybees were dying in large numbers, and people were sending samples into the pesticide regulatory agency, and the regulatory agency was finding neonicotinoids in those samples, and it attributed the death of those bees to neonicotinoids. And what was happening, they think, is that when farmers planted treated seed, the treated seed is coated with the neonicotinoid, but then it's also, the neonicotinoid makes the seed a little bit sticky, and so they put graphite or they put talc in there to lubricate it through the system. And the neonicotinoid was moving from the seed to the talc, and then it was getting sprayed. I mean, as it was planted, the talc is ending up all over the place like this. It was just as if they were spraying insecticide into the air without knowing it. And so that's one of the ways that bees can come in contact. This problem is somewhat mitigated by changes to machinery and changes to the type of adherent that's used. And so not using talc, but using something else. The last way that bees come in contact, this is especially honeybees come in contact with neonicotinoids, is through something called vegetation. Plants will get rid of excess water by releasing it through the tips of their leaves, and honeybees need a lot of water to cool their hives. Yes?
Yeah, I just want to ask about what you thought about that Band-Aid solution that Bear came up with regarding the talc during planting. It appeared to me as weak.
It is weak. It is weak, and it's not definitely not the solution. But it is. I'm of the mind that every little bit helps, but we mustn't call a Band-Aid a solution. So I appreciate your comment. It's very much a Band-Aid solution. So bees will also collect water to cool their hives, and if the water has neonicotinoids in it, then they will be drinking a lovely solution of neonicotinoids. So these are all the ways that bees come into contact with neonicotinoids. In September 2013, the Pesticide Management Regulatory Agency, which is a Health Canada, so it's a federal agency, and it's the one that registers pesticides for use, allows them to be available. They concluded that current agricultural practices related to the use of neonicotinoid-treated corn and soybean seed are not sustainable. We need to remind them that they said that, because they're forgetting. The other thing I would like to say is I often speak to people who don't want this to be true. For one reason or another, and I understand that you don't want it to be true because it's a big hassle and it's like turning the world upside down if this is all true. But the fact is that there is a ton of evidence. We have just had something that came out in June, Worldwide Integrated Assessment undertaken by the Task Force on Systemic Pesticides, that has reviewed 800 scientific reports and papers, and it concluded that the impacts of neonicotinoid pesticides go far beyond honeybees. They include butterflies, birds, and amphibians. They're all threatened. You notice they don't mention native bees. Okay, but native bees are included under honeybees. If it's affecting honeybees, it's affecting native bees. Okay, back in 2012, there was another scientific review, and that had 3 pages of references. Okay, this is 800, this was about 90. So between 2012 and 2014, look at how many papers have come out on this subject. Yes, sir?
Can we, excuse me, can we wait for the questions till after the presentation?
Oh, I just want to mention.
It's okay, after the presentation, please.
They didn't mention humans either.
Yes,
That's
they didn't
okay.
mention humans either.
Yeah.
Because we're way too early on in the process to even begin to look at humans because the dosage is so small, right? We just don't have enough time. There was a time in Ontario, in this fair province that we live in this fair country that we live in. You know, I was just recently in Brazil, And I am so thankful to be Canadian. I am so thankful to live in Canada. Not because Brazil is so horrible, but yes, they're going to be very sad today. But when I go away from Canada and I come back, I am always very grateful. Anyway, in this fair land, in this fair province, we used to be world leaders in something called integrated pest management. And integrated pest management is the idea that if you're going to control insects, you don't start with a pesticide. You start with other things like cultural stuff, sanitation stuff. Then you work on physical and mechanical ways of controlling insects. Then you work on biological ways of controlling insects, like finding predators. And then as a last resort, you apply pesticides. That is a model that we could live with. That was a model that was causing our insecticide use to go down. That is a sensible model. In December 1990, IBM died in Ontario. And we used to have 35 more OMAF field offices. And OMAF is the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture. And that 35 field offices were closed in December of 1990. All of our field reps except 6 in the north were axed. These people and these offices were replaced by the internet and a 1-800 number. That's like replacing hospitals with a Medi-Health line. It just doesn't work. This is what I would consider the underlying cause of the whole problem. And this is a quote, and I'm just going to read it to you because, you know, I can say lots of things to you and I can point lots of fingers, but this is a farmer. This is Ellie Renault, and Ellie is the provincial director in Leeds County for the Ontario Federation of Agriculture, and Ellie was speaking in January 2000. And I took this quote out of the Eastern Ontario Agri-News. Because I like other people to say things for me instead of having to say them myself. So this is what Ellie said. Let's say I want to try a new seed this year. I go to the crop guy at the feed store. Well, of course, he's going to tell me to buy his product. When we had the OMAFRA office doing research, they gave an unbiased opinion. Now, when we go for seed, this was after all the offices were closed. Now, when we go for seed, who do we have to rely on? Renault wonders. Renault adds that OMAFRA is putting an end to third-party research, leaving the companies actually making the product to do their own research, rather than Guelph University. She says it means for individual companies, your results can be whatever you want them to be. I didn't say that. That was a farmer who said that. So into the gap that was left by all those field reps being fired, stepped industry. And you know what? You and I would have done the same thing, because if we saw a gap in which to make money, we could put our foot in there and say, hey, this is a great way to make money. It's only makes sense from a business perspective. And what they did is they became the new ag reps for the agricultural industry in Ontario. And what they did is they turned IBM, this IBM pyramid on its head. And they said, oh, forget biological, forget physical and chemicals, and mechanical, forget cultural and sanitation. This is where we start. And we start before we have an insect problem. So there's a parallel here with antibiotic use that I'd like to point out to people. And the parallel is this, that we need to move from proactive treatment to reactive treatment. In other words, we should only be applying an insecticide when there is an insect to kill, not when there isn't one. Not just because there might be one. It's like taking antibiotics every day just in case you might get sick. We all know how stupid that is. It's stupid from many perspectives. We need to use as little as possible of neonicotinoids. You know, A lot of people give me a hard time because I am not a person who says we need to get rid of neonicotinoids tomorrow and they need to be gone. I'm a person who says, listen, we would be smart if we would keep that tool in our back pocket for the day that we really need it and use everything else first. That's my position on this. I feel that we are just using a product that needs to be used in crisis. We're using it all the time. And that's just what's causing the whole problem because we're saturating the environment with something that is very toxic. We need to save the big guns, the neonicotinoids, for the big problems. We don't need to be applying them every day. Okay, so in Ontario, 100% of the corn acreage that is not grown organically is treated with neonicotinoids, and 80% of the soybean that is not grown organically is treated with neonicotinoids. OMAFRA has declared that we need neonicotinoids at about 10%, not on 100%. So just by using it only on the 10%, we have eliminated neonicotinoids from 90% of the acreage in Ontario, corn acreage in Ontario. That's a huge gain. And it's a gain that I think the conventional farming community can live with. It makes sense. So I, was waxing eloquent when I was writing this, when I was saying this. And I was trying to think of all the words that started with R-E that had something to do with what I thought we needed to do. So I thought the first thing we needed to do was realize what the problem is. So that's why I've got you here, my captive audience. I'm trying to make you realize what the problem is. The second thing is nothing to do with you. It's something to do with federal government. The federal government needs to be more responsible in its registration of products, especially insecticides, especially neonicotinoids. The next thing has to do with the provincial government, and also with farmers themselves. I always say to farmers, if you don't want to be regulated, you need to regulate yourselves. And then nobody will regulate you because you're doing such a great job for yourselves. We need to restrict the acreage or the area, which we need to restrict the use of neonicotinoids to the areas that need it. We need to reinstate integrated pest management in the province. So if you are a letter writing type, if you are an activist type, if you are a political person, that would be the thing, that would be the action that I would ask you to take. I would ask you to write to Jeff Leal, who is Minister of Agriculture, and say, Jeff, if there's only one thing you accomplish in your tenure, it's reinstatement of integrated pest management support in OMAFRA. We need to react. So the way I react is I withdraw my consumer dollars. You can do that too. You can react by withdrawing your consumer dollars, or you can react by writing letters. You can react by talking. We need to recommend. So what that means is we need to recommend, if we're farmers, we need to recommend to each other that we don't do this anymore. If we're eaters, we need to recommend that we don't eat products that are sprayed with neonicotinoids. It's a way of applying pressure. And the last thing is we need to do research. I thought it was pretty clever. That's a lot of words with a pretty in front of them. It took me a long time to do that. Research. We need to not just look at honeybees. We need to look at native bees and what's going on with them too. And we need to research for new ways of dealing with pests. Okay? Now I'm really happy that I came today and not last week. Because today I can leave you with something that's really wonderful. I can tell you we're actually making progress. Jeff Leal has paid attention to the National Farmers Union and various other, the Beekeepers, Ontario Beekeepers Association, and other organizations. I have also written to Jeff Leal and I've written to the PMRA about this subject, and I've said the things that I've said to you to them. And this is what Jeff Leal has said. And what's important here is his little word license system. Over the coming months, I want to first consult with industry, farmers, and environmental stakeholders on the options that are practical, including the consideration of a license system. And what that means is that he wants to put in place a permit system. So if you want to apply neonicotinoids to your crop, you have to jump through a hoop. You have to prove that you have a problem and that you need them. That will eliminate 80% of the users right there. This is a huge, if this happens, it will be a huge, huge step forward. I'll be dancing about that. The other thing that he says is the province wants to move away from the widespread, indiscriminate use of neonicotinoid-based pesticides. He uses this word, indiscriminate use, because that's what it is. Okay? So that is really, really good news. If you can write to Jeff Leal and support that position, that's a great thing. And I'm thrilled. Okay, I'm going to, sorry?
Do you have a webpage?
Do I have a webpage?
Yeah.
I don't have a webpage. I am so busy running around the countryside.
Just to get it all up.
You know what, there's going to be a copy of it.
I can, I've just videotaped the whole thing, and so I can post it on the WECEC website, and then can we make the slides available
Yes.
on the WECEC website too?
Okay, so, and I just run out of business cards, but I am happy to talk to people, answer questions, help people, direct people to appropriate places, because this is important, very important to me, that you folk are able to act or at least get your questions answered. So I'm happy to take questions or comments. I'm happy to have people tell me I'm wrong. I'm happy to have people tell me I'm right.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Yes, it is.
It just seems like that because if you build up more and more and more, and you really don't know what's that. I felt pretty good when I came here, but I thought, holy moly. I remember teaching integrated pest management class. But it's really scary.
Very scary. Yes.
And we'll have some Q&A. I will ask for, one question at a time. I just want to say what you did there. I just looked when I was at the and Duder, our minister, says, I'm